Okay, I'm going to start this video out with this. This is a map of Palestine from 1905. It came out of the National Geographic, I think. But he took this out of a pre-Schofield Bible because the Schofield Bible was rewritten by those who are the subject of this video. I'll turn it sideways there so you can see it says Palestine. You can see Jerusalem there. Not a mention of Israel anywhere because it really doesn't exist. Okay. So I'm going to explain a little bit here. I am not anti-Semitic. I love all people. I love Jews. I love Christians. I love everybody who's got a good heart and trying to do the right thing. And according to the scriptures, we're supposed to even love our enemies. And I've done that too and pray for them. But I got these, it's a bunch of small videos that I've put together. And I can't give you the source, where I got them because I'm just all over the place. And some I get from Twitter, some from Facebook, some from YouTube, some from BitChute, some from Rumble. And I try to mostly show who it's from when I show the video. But some of these I've had in my phone for quite a while, years even. So when I go to put stuff together, I can't give you a source for every little snippet that I take. But if anybody sees something of theirs and they want me to link to it, I'd be happy to do that. Some of the audio on this was really bad. I put music behind it just to kind of cover up the bad sound. But then I read it. You can read it. You can't, it's spoken in Israeli language, so you can't, unless you can speak that language, you couldn't really understand anyway. But they had already put the words in here, and then I went back over it and I read it out loud for those who couldn't see it. This part here is the guy on the left named George. This tells about him in here and how they basically hacked elections and everything else, so through social media. So I thought that was good. And this part talks about Joe Kennedy's answer to the Jewish question. And you can see what he supposedly said there. I can't tell you everything here is 100% true. So if you see something I put in here and you know that it's not true, please let me know, because this is the way I learn. And according to this part about Nixon, now I can kind of understand why he got kicked out of office. I can understand more why Kennedy was killed, both Kennedy brothers. And I 100% believe this is true. So, and like I said, it was, I went through here and I typed in, it's down at the bottom, but I just made it bigger because I have some people that watch my videos that are older and they can't see to read it, or they can't, they like to hear me read stuff. I like that too. Sometimes you can just listen. And then this part here is about Robert Kennedy Jr. And I just took some little snippets out of it because I didn't like some of the things there was just some things that were said in this that was way too controversial. And I don't know that it's true, so I just put the part in here about how Joseph, or I don't know if it was Joseph Kennedy or maybe it was John Kennedy, JFK, who said that Hitler was a good man and the Holocaust never happened and stuff. So I don't know about all that. I think it happened. Maybe it wasn't as bad as they said, but I'm not going to go around saying that because I wasn't there. And then there's this piece here where it shows that Kash Patel and the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, and Dan Bongino all laid out, their concern for protecting Israel. I've heard a lot from the Q people, and I do believe that there's some truth in Q. At the very beginning, I think we may have gotten some truth. I don't follow anything from Q after, 2018, 2019. That's just because Jim Watkins took over. or he came in and changed it over to 8 or something. I had a little conversation with him one day, and he was acting like he was this good Christian and all this stuff, but he's literally a member of the Temple of Set. So if someone can show me that's not true, he told me it wasn't true. But I've seen things. So anyway, so I've heard from the Q group that, and I have watched Donald Trump. So I know that Donald Trump is very aware of Q, and he does the air cues with his fingers and even crosses it. And I've seen him do this on several occasions. And so he has to be in on it. Some kind of a plan. And I prefer to put my faith in God's plan. But maybe this is God's plan. So I'm hesitant just to go out on a limb and say that I believe everything. I can't, because there's too much distraction and disinformation flying everywhere. I don't think any of us can. Nobody can know, really, except maybe they said you could count them on 10 fingers. There's no way anybody could really know, because it's a psyop within a psyop within a psyop. So I think that we're going through a maze, and as we get around each corner, we'll see a little bit more. I think that's the only way this is going to work, but I could be wrong. So I just wanted to explain that maybe he's putting these people, all these people that we know or don't really like that much because of some of their views and some of the things they've done and stuff like that. But maybe they've made a deal. Maybe they're actually working with Trump, and we're going to come out on top. And one more thing I'll say about that before I close is don't put all your eggs in one basket, except for the basket of Jesus Christ. And I'm not ashamed of my Lord, because he's proven to me. Want any part of the New Age movement, the Ascension, all that stuff is a counterfeit. The only way we're true Christians, true followers of Jesus Christ, we got to go by the book, the New Testament. And if it doesn't measure up to what Jesus said, then I'm not going to have it. I don't care who says it, because my trust is in Jesus and not the arm of flesh. So we'll see how this, just keep an open mind, but hold on to it so it's not so open that your brains fall out. So this here, I put some things in here about the vaccinations and stuff that I thought was interesting because of who did it. So I hope you learned something through this, and that it makes a difference in how you see things. And I thought this part right here, we hear so much about Hamas. And I think we can defend the Palestinians without defending Hamas. Because Hamas was created by the United States and Israel through the CIA. So this is Ron Paul saying this. So God bless you and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Cast your cares upon him. Lay your life upon him, for only he is worthy to stand. In tribulation, trial, and sorrow, when you can't see through tomorrow, will they see the sweet, sweet Savior shining through the charity you give? Do you hear his call to follow? You must lay down your life to follow, for only when we to die and the free to live. We must go as the light to the nations. Take up the cross and follow where he leads. We must go as the light to the nations, prepared to wear his crown of thorns to praise his peace.
I'm going to read this for those who can't read it and can't understand the language. So BB starts off saying, the main thing is, first of all, to strike them not once, but several times, so painfully that the price they pay is unbearable. He's talking about Palestinians. So far, the price tag is not unbearable. And then somebody said, see, I don't know if this is him. I mean, a large-scale attack on the Palestinian Authority. Yeah, this is BB. Causing them to fear that everything is about to collapse. Fear is what brings them to... And then somebody said, hold on, but then again, the world will say that we're the aggressor. BB says, they can say whatever they want. And she says, aren't you afraid what they'll say, BB? Especially today with the U.S. And BB says, I know how they are. America is something that you can easily manage and move in the right direction. And even if they say something, so then they say something, so what? You hear the arrogance there? 80% of Americans support us. It's absurd. Look, I wasn't afraid to maneuver the Clinton administration. I wasn't afraid to go against the UN. What happened with the Oslo Accords? The accords which were ratified by Parliament. I was asked before the 1996 elections, will you fulfill them? I said yes, subject to reciprocity and minimizing pullouts. I gave my own interpretation to the agreements in such a way that will allow me to stop the race back towards the 1967 border. How did we manage to do this? Nobody defined what military facilities are. So I also defined them as being security zones. The entire Jordan Valley, for me, is a military facility. Nobody has... And then somebody said, yes, like the Beach Shine Valley. You see, go figure. But then there was the question of who will define these military facilities. I received a letter from Secretary of State Warren Christopher to me and to Arafat at the same time, saying that Israel and Israel alone will define the military facilities, their location and size. Now, they didn't want to give me this letter, so I refused to ratify the Hebron Accords of 1997. I stopped the government meeting and said I won't sign. And only when the letter has arrived during that meeting to me and to Arafat, I signed the Hebron Accords. It's better to give 2% than 100%. And this is the choice we face. So, see how that sneakiness gets through there? That demonic mind control.
Do you hear his call to follow? You must lay down your life to follow, for only when you die are you free to live. We must go as the light to the nations, take up the cross and follow where he leads. We must go as the light.
You saw what it said on the door, right?
No.
It says nothing. It says nothing.
My name is nothing.
That's who we are. We're nothing.
The relationship between the Kennedys and the Jews is a complicated one. One of Kennedy's first acts in the Senate in February of 1953 was his sponsorship of a resolution condemning the persecution of Jews in the Soviet Union. His father, Joseph Kennedy, was perceived by many Jews as an anti-Semite for his opposition to the Second World War. He welcomed Hitler's ideas as a proper solution to world problems, but warned of the Jew media. Jewish pundits in New York and Los Angeles were ready to set a match to the fuse of the world. He also told a British reporter that the democratic policy of the United States is a Jewish production. But John Kennedy would prove to be less problematic for the Jews. He had planned to create a public conference in Washington with prominent leaders of Jewish organizations to appeal to the public's sympathy for the plight of Russian Jewry. But the one issue he did have may have been the crucial link in discovering the reason for the president's demise. In 1963, President John Kennedy warned Israeli Prime Minister Levi Eshkol that relations between the U.S. and Israel would be seriously jeopardized if Israel would not agree to regular U.S. inspections of Israel's nuclear reactor. As I wrote Mr. Ben-Gurion, this government's commitment to and support of Israel could be seriously jeopardized if it should be thought that we were unable to obtain reliable information on a subject as vital to peace as Israel's effort in the nuclear field. Kennedy was not bluffing with Israel. He knew that the Soviets could use the knowledge of Israel's burgeoning program as a reason to increase their own presence in the Middle East. 7 weeks later, Eshkol would submit. According to a report from the Foreign Ministry of Israel, Kennedy had surprised the Deputy Defense Minister Shimon Peres during a meeting Peres had scheduled with Kennedy's advisor, Ukrainian-born Jewish-American lawyer Meyer Feldman. The president pressed Peres personally on the topic, to which Peres replied, "I can tell you most clearly that we will not introduce nuclear weapons to the region, and certainly we will not be the first."
Today, every inhabitant of this planet must contemplate the day when this planet may no longer be habitable. Every man, woman, and child lives under a nuclear sword of Damocles, hanging by the slenderest of threads, capable of being cut at any moment by accident or miscalculation or by madness. The weapons of war must be abolished before they abolish us.
James Angleton was holding secrets that would have likely led to the specific reasons for Kennedy's assassination, and perhaps much of it centered around Angleton's desire to keep even his own intelligence community from discovering how Israel was acquiring nuclear weapons in the first place. For a non-Jew, Angleton was fierce in his loyalty to Israel, although his mother was a suspected Sephardic crypto-Jew. Angleton's loyalty to Israel betrayed U.S. policy on an epic scale. He was a friend you could trust on a personal basis. He was the biggest Zionist of the lot. Angleton was one of the founders of the CIA in 1947. 2 years later, he would become head of staff of the Office of Special Operations, and a few years later, worked as liaison with Israeli Mossad and Shin Bet. There he worked closely with future heads of MI6, Kim Philby, part of the Cambridge 5 spy ring that divulged British information to the Soviets during World War II. Philby's wife, Hungarian Jew Litzy Friedman, or Alice Coleman, was an active communist. Philby was expelled from Washington after being discovered as a Soviet mole, based on the decoded communications in the Venona Project. He later emerged as a general in the KGB. Angleton didn't particularly care for Jewish business practice, but was fascinated with the land of Israel and saw it as a perfect location to cultivate spies from Eastern Europe. In the early 1960s, 2 KGB defectors came to the West to offer their services to the CIA, Anatoly Golitsyn and Yuri Nosenko. Golitsyn convinced Angleton that Nosenko was a double agent sent by the KGB. Angleton canceled Nosenko's deal and held him at a black site facility in Maryland, where he was kept for the next 4 years and allegedly dosed with LSD. Nosenko was eventually released without ever being proven to have been a mole. Philby's betrayal had caused Angleton to believe more moles existed. His suspicion.
Jews are all through the government. And we have got to get in those areas, we've got to get the man in charge who's not Jewish to control the Jewish union. I sure government full of Jews. I sure do. Second, most Jews are just one. You know what I mean? You have a garment in the kitchen. Jews are all through the government. And we have got to get in those areas. We've got to get the man in charge who's not Jewish to control the Jewish union. I sure government full of Jews. I sure do. Second, most Jews are just one. You know what I mean? You have a garment in the kitchen.
Democracy is a political system in which the people periodically, by majority vote at the polls, select their rulers. The rulers then have absolute power to make whatever laws they please by majority vote among themselves. In a constitutional republic, the people also, by majority vote at the polls, select rulers, who make laws by majority vote among themselves. But the rulers cannot make any laws they please because the Constitution severely restricts their lawmaking power. The ideal of a democracy is universal equality. The ideal of a constitutional republic is individual liberty. In this century, great strides have been made toward the goal of subverting our republic and transforming it into a democracy. The foremost tactic of the subverters is subversion of language. By calling America a democracy until people thoughtlessly accept and use the term, totalitarians have obscured the real meaning of American principles of government. Note the following passages from a recent article distributed by the New York Times News Service. Quote, "In the United States and in other leading democracies, recent years have seen perceptible growth in executive authority. As society becomes more..."
Robert Kennedy Jr. has announced he's running in the presidential primaries to be the Democrat presidential candidate for 2024. There's a Robert Kennedy, April 24th, 2023 Twitter post. I'll read it for you. It reads as, at dinner with my friend Holocaust survivor Vera Sharav and my daughter Kira on Israel's birthday. After fleeing Nazi pogroms in Romania, Vera spent 3 years in Ukraine's Mogilev slave labor camp before a Palestinian land. He even refers to it as Palestine in his tweet, yet he celebrates the state of Israel. Secondly, he is totally oblivious that the CIA assassinated his uncle, President John F. Kennedy, on the orders of Jews. Israel's Prime Minister Ben Gurion ordered the assassination of John Kennedy. Mossad took the orders and worked with the CIA to assassinate John Kennedy. JFK's murder was about Israel building nuclear weapons. Jews had stolen U.S. technology and enriched uranium. Kennedy was going to cut off all relations with Israel over the Dimona nuclear weapons facility. The Jews wanted Kennedy dead to protect Israel's covertly acquired nuclear weapons and to maintain the U.S. relationship for billions in grifts, largesse, and aid, including America fighting Israel's wars of aggression. Israel killed Robert Kennedy Sr., who, if he'd become president, instead of also being assassinated in 1968, he would have exposed who killed his brother JFK. Furthermore, as even General Patton told us, as a young man stationed in Europe and Germany in late 1945, John Kennedy wrote in his diary about his admiration for Adolf Hitler. Kennedy, then 28, predicted Hitler will emerge from the hatred that surrounds him now as one of the most significant figures who ever lived.
Including fighters from Nusra Front, which is of course the Al-Qaeda proxy in Syria. Do those reports worry you that Israel's helping wounded Al-Qaeda aligned fighters?
As I said before, Al-Qaeda, to the best of my recollection, has up to now not attacked Israel.
It has attacked your number one ally and protector and sponsor in the United States of America.
We begin with this really tragic breaking news out of New Orleans this morning. 10 people are dead, and at least 30 others are injured after a vehicle drove into a crowd in the French Quarter.
An ISIS flag was located on the trailer hitch of the vehicle.
Al-Qaeda, to the best of my recollection, has up to now not attacked Israel.
It has attacked your number one ally and protector and sponsor in the United States of America.
Order of business for America. Make sure Americans wake up and prioritize Israel.
We will no longer have 100 hostages still in captivity, Israeli and American and otherwise, by Hamas and Iran's Hezbollah mercenary forces. We need America to wake up and prioritize Israel and bring home Israelis and make sure we stand by our number one ally in Israel. We will shut off the machinery that feeds money into Iran. We will no longer have 100 hostages still in captivity, Israeli and American and otherwise, by Hamas and Iran's Hezbollah mercenary forces. We need America to wake up and prioritize Israel and bring home Israelis and make sure we stand by our number one ally in Israel.
In his very first move as the new House Speaker of America, Mike Johnson pledges support for Israel. Billions more in military and monetary aid are on the way.
Extraordinary crisis right now. And the world needs us to be strong. They need us to remember our creed and our admonition. Turmoil and violence have rocked the Middle East and Eastern Europe. We all know it, and tensions continue to build in the Indo-Pacific. The country demands strong leadership of this body, and we must not waver. Our nation's greatest ally in the Middle East is under attack. The first bill that I'm going to bring to this floor in just a little while will be in support of our dear friend Israel, and we're overdue in getting that done. We're going to show not only Israel, but the entire world that the barbarism of Hamas that we have all seen play out on our television screens is wretched and wrong, and we are going to stand for the good in that conflict.
Right, what part?
Cause is dear to my Israel.
Stop.
Who's in control? Who was in charge of the CDC that was controlling and telling our government to shut down small businesses and what they recommend for the mandates and the vaccines and Pfizer and all? At the time when COVID was being enacted, I'm going to read off the staff of who was in charge of this CDC. The director of the CDC was Rochelle Walensky, dual citizenship with Israel. She's a Jew. Deputy director of the CDC, Ann Schwalcher, dual citizenship with Israel, Jew. CDC chief of staff, Sherry Berger, dual citizenship with Israel, Jew. CDC chief medical officer, Mitchell Wolf, dual citizenship with Israel, Jew. CDC director of the Washington office. This is pertinent to the topic. We're talking about COVID, right? Yeah. This is pertinent to COVID. So I love you, Jennifer. Yeah, please. So director of the CDC of the Washington office, Jeff Resnick, dual citizenship with Israel, Jew. COVID czar, Jeff Zaitz, dual citizenship with Israel, Jew. COVID's senior advisor, Andy Slavitt, dual citizenship with Israel, Jew. Assistant of Health Secretary for Human Services for our country, the Assistant of Health Secretary, Rachel Levine, transgender, dual citizenship with Israel, yes, Jew.
Can I ask that you hold off, Christopher?
Ma'am, I'm almost done.
Mr. Wood, the chair has ruled that your comments are out of order. She's asked you to stop. The chair has...
People died. 1/3 of the entire world population was infected. There are several very interesting things about the Spanish flu. First of all, it didn't start in Spain. Secondly, it wasn't a flu. There's more, but let's start with these two, shall we? If it didn't start in Spain, then where did it? In the US. If it wasn't a flu virus, what was it? It was a bacteria that caused severe and in most cases lethal pneumonia. Long story short, during the first half of 1918, an experimental bacterial meningitis vaccine cultured in horses by the Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research in New York, now the Rockefeller University, was injected into soldiers at Fort Riley. The so-called Spanish flu was a vaccine experiment gone horribly wrong. 2 million of them went overseas. They fought under poor sanitary conditions, so the bacteria spread like wildfire wherever they went. The story was then spread that these soldiers would come home with all sorts of European diseases, so the American population was vaccinated as well. Who was in charge of that distribution and mass vaccination program? The Rockefeller Institute. Who was the main scientist in charge? Dr. Frederick Gates. Those who survived became cloud adults, meaning they spread the bacteria to others, even the non-vaccinated. In modern COVID days, we would call it shedding. The vaccinated infecting the non-vaccinated. Amazing coincidence, right? Frederick Gates then, Bill Gates now. Rockefeller Initiative then, Rockefeller Initiative now. Disease developed in Fort Riley, US then. Disease developed in Wuhan, China now. Closed down societies then. Closed down societies now. Cloud adults then. Shedding now. All for our own good, our own safety. Back then. And now.
And here is Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, followed by the former U.S. Ambassador to Israel, David Freeman, openly bragging about the fact that Israel is helping to censor people inside the U.S. for their free speech in support of Palestinian rights and criticizing the Israeli mass murder campaign in Gaza.
Killers. This is a reflection of a deep rot that has pervaded the intellectual hub of free societies. And this vilification of Israel, the Jewish people, and Western values has been propagated by a systemic alliance between the ultra-progressive left and radical Islam. It must be resolutely fought by civilized societies to safeguard their future. This is why we must all commend President Trump's decisive actions against anti-Semitism. And we must pressure other governments to do the same.
A government can do in 2 months more than any organization can do in its lifetime. And so when we talk about the importance of
a bipartisan fight against anti-Semitism, which of course I endorse, and I, as my predecessor said, I condemn anti-Semitism on the right and on the left. I'm an equal opportunity condemner of anti-Semitism.
You are alluding to Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, none of them are any good on the right. On the left, I don't like any of these anti-Semites, and I'm not shy about it. But the government, the United States government, or the government of France, or the government of any other country, has the power to rein in anti-Semitism in a much more effective way. And people say, well, the governments are not in the business of changing the way people think. That's true, but, to my thinking, most people who are, anti-Semites, most of these people running around, we're not going to win their hearts and minds because they don't have hearts and they don't have minds. So, how are we going to, there's no reason to think we're ever going to convince them, but we can deport them, we can put them in jail, we can make their lives miserable, we can cut off their funding, and that's what the Trump administration is doing for the first time.
And that last speaker is David Friedman, who is Trump's former ambassador to Israel. And note there how he just smears Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens as anti-Semites simply because they've been critical of Israel carrying out mass murder in Gaza. And he talks about openly how great it is now that the government can ruin people's lives if they criticize Israel. And he's appearing alongside Benjamin Netanyahu, who's also cheering this on.
If you look at the history, you'll find out that Hamas was encouraged and really started by Israel because they wanted Hamas to counteract Yasser Arafat. And you say, well, yeah, that was better then and it served its purpose, but we didn't want Hamas to do this. So then we as Americans say, well, we have such a good system, we're going to impose this on the world. We're going to invade Iraq and teach people how to be Democrats. We want free elections. So we encourage the Palestinians to have a free election. They do, and they elect Hamas. So we first, indirectly and directly through Israel, help establish Hamas. Then we have election. Then Hamas becomes dominant. So we have to kill them. It just doesn't make sense.
אנחנו הולכים למסלול התנגשות עם הממשל האמריקאי. ארצות הברית זה לא מקשה אחת, אבל אנחנו הולכים למסלול התנגשות עם הממשל האמריקאי. ארצות הברית זה לא מקשה אחת, יש את הסנאט, יש את הקונגרס, יש את הכוח היהודי שהוא עצום, יותר חזק משהיה אי פעם, יש דעת קהל, יש לנו כוחות כבירים בדעת הקהל שמתנגדים למדיניות הזאת, גדולי הפרשנים. אמריקה לא תכפה עלינו דבר, אם לא...
Okay, this is in the 1980s in Israel. Netanyahu, he says, but we are going on a route of confrontation with the American government. The United States is not one force. It is not one force. There is the Senate. There is the Congress. There is the Jewish power that is tremendous, stronger than it ever was. There is a public opinion. We have powerful forces in the public opinion that oppose the policy. The great interpreters. America will not care about us if we don't.
Christian Zionists that you know about, you've heard of them, right? They number in the tens of millions in America. They're a formidable block of power. Their Bible is the Schofield Bible. In that Bible, which has been completely and totally twisted and perverted and turned upside down, that's why they believe that we must bend over, take it up the, where the sun don't shine, and basically suck the, of the Jewish state of Israel, because God commands us to do everything. And literally, this is why they all go to Israel and they get like these beautiful VIP tours. They never go to the West Bank. They meet all these Israelis, and aren't they all lovely, and they have a good time, and they come back. These dumbasses are going from a Bible that is the end. They're all going to hell, man. Like, you guys have rejected God and sided with the enemy. Anyway, the point is they've rubbished religion so bad. So you've got the money on the material side, and you've got the corruption of the churches and religion on the spiritual side. So you've detached people from source. You've seduced them with the desire for money, And this is a very weakened state. You can control a population like that. Meanwhile, they also have a spiritual practice. They do. Their God is Satan.
In tribulation, trial, and sorrow, when you can't see through tomorrow, He'll reveal to you.
COVID-19 is targeted to attack Caucasians and black people. The people who are most immune are Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese. COVID-19 is targeted to attack Caucasians and black people. The people who are most immune are Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese. COVID-19 is targeted to attack Caucasians and black people. The people who are most immune are Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese. COVID-19 is targeted to attack Caucasians and black people. The people who are most immune are Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese.
The Ukraine was formerly known as Khazaria. The Khazarians were well known for their evil ways. In 9 or 10 AD, century is debatable, the Khazarians were surrounded by Russia and Turkey and given a choice. Pick a religion of your choice and change your evil ways, or we will eliminate your entire people. The Khazarians chose Judaism and rewrote the Torah to suit themselves. The book they wrote is known as the Talmud. The modern-day Khazaria mafia control pretty much everything in our little world except for Russia and possibly some of China. Throughout history, the Khazarians have financed both sides of all relevant wars, to include our Revolutionary War, our Civil War, World War I, World War II, and many more I've failed to mention. Pictured is Marina Abramovic. She is a Khazarian. She's also a self-proclaimed Satanist, witch, sacrificer of children, blood drinker, and spirit cooker. She's wildly popular in elitist circles, Hollywood and D.C. She throws lavish parties attended by all the elites. She occasionally takes on a protege, her highest profile protege being Lady Gaga. Fauci is also a Khazarian. Many of the Hollywood Jews are indeed Khazarians, not God's chosen people, the Jews of the bloodline of Christ. Far too many of our politicians are controlled by the Khazarian mafia. The Ukraine is a deep state-controlled country, just like our own. As usual, which has been proven over the centuries, the ordinary citizens of Ukraine are the only ones that will suffer because of this fight with Russia. The rich will get richer and the powerful will gain more power. Unfortunately, that also seems to be exactly what is playing out here in the U.S. as the same satanic bunch implement the Great Reset.
Innocence of Eden long ago, tempted by my heart to go it on my own, beyond the garden, somehow through the desert of my wanderings alone. You have never let me go. I turn from you and still say separation deep within my bones brought me to my knees, crying out for hope beyond the garden. Somehow through my tears you heard the words I could not speak. You were there to rescue me. I turned from you, and still you cover me. I fall so far. You find me in the deep. I lose my way, and you're reaching out to me anywhere I
profile. If you got a fancy car, don't show off with it in front of the goyim. You want to build a beautiful house, don't make it so fancy outside so the goyish neighbors are going to say, wow, look at those wealthy Jews. Keep it inside. Keep a low profile. And you know what he says? He says it's unbelievable. Esav hates us. That's what Rabbi Zitron was talking about. Esav hates us because they still are angry that Yaakov took the bracha. And he says, why is it that if a person has $100, he has to show off as if he's got 200? If he's got 1,000, he's got to show off that he's got 2,000. Rabbi said, let's keep a low profile. Don't tell the people at work, especially if they're not Jewish, about all your nachas. They don't have nachas like we have. They don't have a Friday night meal like we have. They don't have wonderful children that are giving them nachas like we have. Don't talk about your kids. Don't spread out all these chats if there are people there that don't have what you have, especially if they're not Jewish. It's hurting them. Keep a low profile.
The Jews wouldn't push their nose into society, judges, lawyers, this, everywhere, control, politics, money, success. It drives them crazy. Jews should have taken the advice of Yaakov Avinu. He said to his sons, they're all handsome, nice, righteous, and wealthy. Do not come in one door when you go to buy food. Why? What's the problem, Father? Why? They're going to see all of you full of cash. You're all dressed well. You're coming in one door. All one family of Jews. They'll go crazy. It drives them crazy. You go from here, you go from there. Don't come at the same time. Don't make too much show off. Not to talk about build mansions and drive fanciest car and 10 carats diamonds in every finger and all these things that drives them even more crazy. Now, as long as the Goyim has plenty of money, they can take mortgage with 4%, they can live like they're rich. No, it doesn't kill them so much. The problem begins when the interest rate goes up and they cannot pay the bills and they lose their homes, and they hear that by Jews, business as usual, another 300 million deal, another $500 million deal, and it drives them crazy, and they hear it on the news, and from here until going to break graves and burn synagogues, I don't have to tell you how quick it can happen.
I just want to say this to our Christian friends, you know, just to call it as it is and say it straight out, you guys are worshiping one Jew. That's a mistake. You should be worshiping every single one of us, because we all die for your sins every single day. And that's exactly what's going on here. We're all God's firstborn, and we're dying for your sins right now because the Jewish people in the land of Israel are the bulwark against the orcs. I just want to say this to our Christian friends, just to call it as it is and say it straight out, you guys are worshiping one Jew. That's a mistake. You should be worshiping every single one of us, because we all die for your sins every single day. And that's exactly what's going on here. We're all God's firstborn, and we're dying for your sins right now because the Jewish people in the land of Israel are the bulwark against the orcs.
An Israeli request to stop the distribution of a book that contains some pretty damning information about the Israeli Secret Service, the Mossad, if it is true. Here's ABC's John Martin.
The most sensational claim in the book involves this bloody day, the Beirut Marine Barracks bombing. The book says Israeli agents kept vital information from U.S. Marines that might have saved the lives of 241 Americans killed here. Israeli government sources deny this account. But according to the book, an Israeli informant saw a Mercedes truck being fitted with secret panels for explosives. Israeli troops were told to be on the lookout for the truck. But the book says the Israelis intentionally gave the Americans only a vague warning, not mentioning the kind or size of vehicle. The book says Israeli intelligence was willing to let the terrorists succeed to protect their sources and out of contempt for U.S. intelligence. It says agents withheld information on U.S. hostages for similar reasons. In Toronto today, the author was under a court-ordered gag not to discuss the book or the case.
You see, there's two restrictions. There's one restriction that I can't talk about what I learned or have done in the Mossad, and the other restriction is I cannot talk about anything that's in the book.
Israeli officials confirmed that Victor Ostrovsky worked for the Mossad in the 1980s. Alarmed by the contents of the book, they got it temporarily blocked in Canada and the United States.
It's the position of the Israeli government that the information contained in the book could very well lead to the identification of employees of the Mossad and could jeopardize their lives.
But the book's introduction says it does not name active agents and gives only initials. It does say that more than 24 senior Israeli agents routinely gather intelligence in the United States. Late today, the book was put out for sale in New York after the court lifted its restraining order. The publishers claimed...
Like a babe when it cries for its mother, like a child I was helpless and alone. Then I met the Master. I am one of his own. For all things were changed when he found me.
I was doing a live tonight, and people told me in the chat that someone named Fiona Ryan, a very, very good influencer on TikTok who speaks very eloquently and passionately in favor of Palestinians, said that this happened to her today.
I can't believe that it happened in my house. They just came ramming in here and arrested me in front of my kids for being anti-Israel, which is wild. But that's what's happening in the UK, guys.
Yes, you heard that right. This poor woman, the police broke into her house, arrested her for terrorism, for simply speaking out online in favor of the Palestinians and being critical of Israel. They took all her devices. They even took her hydroponic grow setup for her peppers and cucumbers or whatever. This is unbelievable, and this is not good for free speech. This happened in the United Kingdom, and not a good precedent.
And now I walk no more in the night.
Did you know that Zionists considered creating a Jewish state in Eastern Africa? In 1902, Theodor Herzl, the founding father of Zionism, asked the British government if a Jewish colony could be established on Cyprus Island, or Sinai, for Jews who were experiencing anti-Semitism all across Europe. Colonial Secretary Joseph Chamberlain refused, but suggested establishing a Jewish colony or settlement inside the British Empire, in today's Kenya. The plan was called the Uganda Scheme, and was approved by the Sixth Zionist Congress in 1903, which sent a commission to explore the area. The settlement was supposed to be around 15,000 square kilometers, which is slightly bigger in size than the US state of Maryland. However, the British government received complaints from white Christian settlers living there, and Zionist explorers concluded that the area lacked essential infrastructure. A few months later, the Seventh Zionist Congress ended up rejecting any colonization activity outside of Palestine and neighboring lands. A minority of Zionists founded the Jewish Territorialist Organization and kept advocating for Jewish settlements in various parts of the world, including Argentina, until the creation of Israel in 1948. A small Jewish community still lives in Kenya, whose ancestors arrived around 1904.
Israelitic and non-Israelitic, according to the book called Jewish Utopia. Now, they are building their own kingdom. It's the Jewish earthly kingdom with headquarters in Jerusalem, where their AI Messiah will be, and they're going to rule the world through the law. You know, it will be international, one law, one religion, basically, Luciferian religion. So yes, in a Talmud, this is the Jewish earthly kingdom, and this is why the Zionist Christianity have embraced Kiliism. They have embraced, or Chiliism, I don't know how you would say.
Kiliism, which means 1,000.
1,000.
Where they get the 1,000-year millennial reign.
Exactly, which is a focus on earthly millennial kingdom. And this is how Jews and Christians are getting together, and Christians are so deceived, thinking that they are working for the good thing, for the Jews, like they're helping the Jews. The Jews are supposed to get this kingdom. Yet this is Zoharic doctrine, and it does not have good intention. As I said, that they want to rule the world, they want to get Gentile riches, and they want to rule the Gentiles. They don't consider Gentiles fully human beings, and in fact, as an end game, they have this strange doctrine, Adam Kadmon doctrine, which Adam Kadmon originally was, according to Zohar and Talmud, he was androgynous. You know, Adam, like he wasn't male, or he was male female in one body, and this is why you see this transgender agenda today, and there are laws, very serious laws, passing in Alberta, Canada.
Is Zionism behind the transgender movement?
You know, I don't think that, personally, I don't think Zionist Christians are aware of this. They're not aware of many details of what
is Zionism.
But I think that, yes.
Does the transgender movement get its origin in Zionism?
Yes, it gets its origin in Zionism, and it gets its origin in the Talmud, Zohar, and Kabbalah. It's a Kabbalistic doctrine of Adam Kadmon, which is eventually they have this doctrine called Tikkun Olam, repairing the world. Yes. So how do they want to repair the world? They want to bring it to the original. Who was original Adam? He was androgynous. So now they're putting specific things in food and drink, and they're basically their end game is to make humans that on Earth that will survive whatever it is they're bringing androgynous. The transgender agenda.
What they're really trying to do is undo God's creation.
Exactly.
Yes.
Authentic Jews around the world demand that the entire land and all rights be restored to the Palestinian people. As Jews, we say that our people would be more safe and our religion more respected under Arabs who believe in God and fear Him than under these heretics, Jews only by birth, who make war against Judaism and humanity. We pray for the speedy and peaceful dismantlement of the State of Israel, and for the time when Palestinians and Jews will once again live side by side in peace and harmony.
ICC ruled today to arrest the leaders of this genocide, Bibi Netanyahu, and all the leaders who are committed to genocide. This is a great day for humanity. While the world is waking up to the Zionist crimes, we, as Jewish people, we are here to say that while the Zionists are hiding into our religion to justify all these crimes, and of course accuse ICC and the judge of the ICC as anti-Semitic, we are here as Jewish people to say that Zionism have nothing to do with Judaism. It's not anti-Semitic to stand up while we are seeing and witnessing ongoing genocide taking place in front of the whole world. This is unacceptable. Every righteous person have a duty to stand up and to say no to this genocide. Especially we as Jewish people, while they are hiding in our religion, they hijack our identity to justify
What role in the Middle East again does Israel play in this?
Israel was created as the instrument to bring about the Battle of Armageddon and the fulfillment of prophecy, a war that will be so terrible, where nuclear weapons will be used, so that the American citizens and the other people in the world will get down on their knees and beg for no more war. And what is the answer to that? They're going to be told the only way we can guarantee no more war is if we destroy the sovereignty of nations and we come together as one humanity in a one world government.
Right.
And I'm telling you, unless the American people wake up and stop it, starting in about 1996, the Battle of Armageddon.
The corona is for the non-Jews. It's not for Am Yisrael. It's not for the Jews. Smile.
Corona, 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 corona,
silent. We're Jews. Because we're Jews, we have to stand up and say, this is not true. It's not in our name. We totally object to this. We cry and hurt with the people of Gaza and Palestine. This is not a religious state. It's not a Jewish state. They're using the name Israel. They're masquerading in the Star of David in the name Israel. This is a criminal entity.